When you think of what makes Cyberpunk 2077 art, you may think of the music, story, or characters. However, unbeknownst to most and under the surface, people devote their lives to the complex art of computer graphics, which provides a medium for, powers, and support what most think of as the art of games like Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077. First, let's understand a few basic computer graphic concepts and terms. I promise it will be quick. A pixel is the smallest thing that your screen can show. A screen is subdivided into millions of pixels. By changing the color of these pixels, a screen creates an image. A scene is the digital world inside the computer. Scenes are almost always made out of a bunch of tiny triangles. By using enough triangles, you can approximate any shape. Rendering is the name of the process through which computers turn a digital world into an image on your screen. Rendering consists of the computer figuring out what color each pixel should be. A GPU, or graphics processing unit, is another computer that lives inside your computer that is specialized and responsible for graphics. When you are rendering for a game like Cyberpunk 2077, you want it to be real time, which means that the computer renders the scene at least 30 times per second in order to trick our brains into seeing motion. The typical screen has around 2 million pixels, so you need to render about 2 million pixels per frame, which is the rendered image, and a frame in this context means the same thing as a frame in a movie. Thus, in order for a game's motion to be fluid, you need to render around 60 million pixels per second. That is, answer the question, what color is this pixel, 60 million times per second, since you need at least 30 frames per second for the motion to be fluid. The rate at which this question needs to be answered is at the core of what makes graphics for video games technically difficult. Given all this technical language, some may come to the conclusion that computer graphics is more of a science than an art. However, the successful use of computer graphics, like those of Cyberpunk 2077, relies on art. Sure, there's a boatload of math and technical mumbo-jumbo, but that by itself doesn't do anything. Without art in the form of a scene, there is nothing to render. Creating scenes is where the army of digital artists behind every game comes in. They define what the objects in the game world should look like through a complex and time-consuming artistic process. Let's say that we want to have a pair of glasses in our game. We first have to tell the computer what the glasses look like and what shape they are. So, artists create a 3D model of the glasses inside the computer. So now, after many hours of work, we have the shape of the glasses, but they still have no color and don't actually look like real glasses. Therefore, another artist will go and draw details onto the glasses, like the colors of the frame and any text on the frame. So now we have basic looking glasses, but they don't look very realistic. Then another artist will have to tell the computer the lighting properties of each part of the glasses. So they'll tell the computer to make the lenses glassy and transparent and to make the frames have a reflective shine, for example. Finally, our glasses are finished after 3 or more artists have spent hours on them. However, creating assets isn't the only place where art is critical in the graphics of a game. The rendering process itself is a form of artistic expression. From choosing the style of rendering to the colors of the game, the rendering process gives game developers artistic control. The art style of a game can be determined by how it's rendered. Cyberpunk 2077 aims for extreme photorealism, which it couldn't accomplish without the specific choices favoring photorealism that the developers made when defining how the game should be rendered. Cyberpunk 2077 is rendered in multiple ways. However, all of them are either ray tracing or different ways of approximating ray tracing in more performant ways, with various levels of success and quality. Thus, we will focus on ray tracing. Ray tracing is a rendering technique that simulates light in order to render an image. It is often regarded as the pinnacle of computer graphics rendering techniques. However, it is computationally expensive, meaning that until recently, ray tracing wasn't viable for real-time rendering applications like games, since it would simply take too long to render a frame, and thus it wouldn't be possible to achieve 30 frames per second. Even 4 years after Cyberpunk 2077's release, ray tracing is still a cutting-edge rendering technique in real-time applications like games. All clips that you have seen of Cyberpunk 2077 in this video, and will see, have been using ray tracing. Ray tracing works, as stated previously, by simulating light. In real life, lights emit photons which bounce around a room. Some end up inside our eyes, where we sense them. Additionally, objects reflect only certain wavelengths of light, leading to the color that our eyes sense. However, it would be a waste to simulate the many photons of light that bounce around a room but don't enter our eyes, since they don't contribute anything to what we see. Thus, in computer graphics, we reverse how light works in real life and send photons out of the eyes, shooting what we call rays from the position where each pixel would be in the game world. These rays then pick up color with each bounce and possibly end up at a light source. However, ray tracing has a fundamental flaw. All surfaces except perfect mirrors and perfectly transparent objects diffuse light, which means that they bounce light in random directions. This makes it unlikely that rays fired from the same spot will end up at a light consistently, creating a graininess in the image, as rays which are fired from the same or very similar positions have vastly different brightnesses. In non-real-time applications, you can simply repeat the simulation hundreds or thousands of times to average out all the results to get a noise-free image. However, this technique simply takes way too long to complete for applications like games. This is where the crucial art of optimization comes into play. Without optimization, the graphics of a game don't work, since they aren't real-time and don't result in a good playing experience. Optimization isn't needed just for ray tracing, however. Every single game needs some sort of optimization to be playable. For example, one form of optimization is that almost all games offload their rendering work to the GPU, which is specialized for rendering. Ray tracing, through simulating light, lends itself perfectly to the photorealistic style of Cyberpunk 2077. Their choice of rendering technique helped the artists behind Cyberpunk 2077 to achieve their desired outcome. Sure, there's a lot of science behind computer graphics, but art still drives it. Computer graphics is about rendering a scene, and a scene simply cannot exist without art. Everything else that is artistic about Cyberpunk 2077 depends on, well, it being a game, and without the art of computer graphics, Cyberpunk 2077 simply wouldn't be a game.